Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash, and I am joined by the one and only Mrs. Deb Lutz, aka Deluxe. Deb, how are you doing on this Saturday evening?
Saturday evening, it's like I feel like my day's just getting started over here on the West Coast. Saturday afternoon, I spent way too much time digging into football this morning, but it's all good. It's the weather's cool here for Phoenix, and feeling like football weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock over here. I know it's only 3 o'clock there, so you're still, late afternoon. But yeah, it's getting into the evening here, and we're right before week 3, so we're going to be breaking that down today. If you're new to the channel, if you would give us a like and then hit the subscribe button. After you've done those two things, if you would hit the alarm bell, that will let you know when our newest podcast is going live. If you're new to DFS Coach Talk, we would love to have you join us. We have our NFL kickoff special going on right now. For just $45, you're going to get the entire NFL season, the rest of Major League Baseball season. Like a week and a half is all that's left. I can't believe it's gone by this fast. And then the playoffs, of course. And then NBA starts in October. So you're going to get up until the Super Bowl. The day after the Super Bowl will be the last day of the kickoff special. So you get all that, about 6 months of content for just $45. So it's a really good deal. You can send us a DM on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk or email me at jpdavis1982@gmail.com. And we'll be glad to get you in there. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off, Deb. We're going to do something a little bit different this week. We're going to add something new towards the end of the show. But for now, we'll just go ahead and kick it off with our top quarterback plays. So who is your top quarterback as far as a pay-up quarterback this week?
I've got two. I always can't quite put it down to one, but I will tell you. The obvious one for me is Justin Herbert. I mean, he's, QB1 many weeks. And this week, by far and away, the highest scoring game on the slate against a not so good defense in Minnesota. He's been pretty solid so far this season. And I just expect this to be a pretty smash game. You've got Eckler's out, so they're going to be less dependent on the run. Yeah. And I see him airing it out. This is going to be an air out kind of game. So he's kind of an obvious one. Going to be owned. But, really no quarterbacks are ever that highly owned. That's the one thing about the quarterback is it's pretty split. So, but if you want to go with a little bit lower owned, I'm going with Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar breaks out this week. He has not had one of those, 34-point weeks yet this season. He's got Andrews back. They are down to like one running back. So I expect he's going to be doing a lot of the running as well. Not playing a so-so defense, I'd say, sort of an average defense. And I think he's going to be a little sneaky this week. I think people are, focused on the Mahomes and the certainly Cousins, Herbert, Lawrence, etc. So, if I had to pick one, I'm probably a little more excited by Lamar.
Okay. Now I did see, and I swear every time I try to avoid these kind of games, it seems to backfire, but I did see where it's supposed to rain, a decent chance of rain, at least in Baltimore, about a 55% chance with 67 degrees with 13-mile-an-hour winds. So would that have any effect on your Lamar choice at all, or?
Yeah, the whole East Coast is going to be sort of socked in. It's going to make for some interesting games, but not really. I think he's he doesn't bother me in the rain. I think he can, scramble around there, and I still like him.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense because he's going to be that much harder to tackle on the wet field, so that makes a lot of sense. Let's see here. Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you for a second. Yeah.
How about you? Saying, who do you like for quarterback?
On that slippery field, he'll be, difficult to take, even more difficult to take down.
Exactly.
So I like Mahomes again. I know I liked him last week, but he's going up against the Bears. I think that's probably about the best matchup you can have right now. The Bears are just a complete disaster. And I think that, as long as the game doesn't get too out of hand, I think that, he'll put up big numbers like he always does, especially at home. He might get some rushing yards, maybe even a rushing touchdown. But I do like Mahomes. I don't think he's going to get as much ownership this week because, like you said, a lot of people are on Cousins and Herbert. I do like Cousins too. He's kind of the obvious play. I think he's probably going to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate. He's 6,900 on DraftKings, 7,800 on Fanduel, $32 on Yahoo. The Chargers have allowed the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. So he is definitely going to be chalky, but I think he's in a really good spot. So those two would be my top two. And then kind of like 2B, if you would be Dak Prescott against Arizona. I think that's a really good matchup for him, obviously. Had a pretty strong game last week. He completed 31 of 38 passes for 255 and 2 touchdowns against the Jets, which they have a really good secondary. So those are pretty good numbers. He can have a monster.
It just depends on how much in that game, how much they're going to be. He's going to be throwing the ball.
That's the only concern. Yeah.
But I agree with you there. Yeah, he was pretty efficient. I think this West Coast offense might be working for him.
Mm-hmm. And then
what about value? What do you like for value?
I don't really have like a top value play. I don't mind Jordan Love. I think that, if Aaron Jones and Christian Watson both play, I think he'd be a decent value. But if they're out, I don't really like him in that spot as much.
Yeah.
I think that, the Saints defense can be pretty tough at times. So wouldn't like that. I'm just trying to think who else is out there. Let's see.
Well, I've got a couple for you.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of CJ Stroud. He's been airing the ball out. I don't think their offense is necessarily an issue. I think it's their defense right now. And, going up against Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville does have a good defense, but, they've been letting teams score on them a bit. So I think, CJ Stroud has another, big game. And I think Nico Collins is for real. He's really, over the last, I'd say 12 games or so, he's really come on. And, last year it was with Mills. So I think with Stroud, he's even better. You have Tank there, who I kind of like as their RB or WR3. And he's really cheap. He's like 3,600 on DraftKings. And I even like, Schultz as the tight end there. So I think Stroud's going to have a big game. And I think it's really nice for a GPP stack because the wide receivers and tight ends are really inexpensive.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good play. I like Nico Collins, and obviously pairing up with Stroud makes a lot of sense too. So we'll go ahead and move on to running back.
All right.
The most expensive running back is obvious. He's probably the most obvious play on the slate, given that it should be a pretty lopsided game with Dallas. Tony Pollard. He's got a really good matchup against the Cardinals. They're really struggling too, kind of like the Bears. And I think that, they'll have a lead and he'll get quite a few carries. The only thing would be if like Deuce Vaughn or somebody takes some away from him. But I do like Tony Pollard. He's just really expensive. So are you going to play Pollard or are you going to stay away from him?
He's going to be in 100% of my lineups. Okay. I think this is just a smash spot for him. I think they're going to be, on the ground a lot. He gets a ton of touches. He gets a ton of end zone touches. They're going to be in the end zone. I just think this could be, 30 points for Pollard. He could have, 16 carries, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I just think this is a great spot for him. So I don't mind, there's a few chalky guys here today. This is the one certainly from the running back side, and I don't mind eating this chalk at all.
I'm with you 100%.
Cool.
Then you have what I would call value plays, really. I mean, they're kind of in the middle, but I think Raheem Mostert and Brian Robinson Jr. are both really well priced. They're 6,000 on DraftKings for Mostert and 5,800 on DraftKings for Robinson, 6,600 on Fanduel for Mostert, and 7,500 on Fanduel. So he's a little bit more over there. And then Mostert's only $15 on Yahoo, and then Robinson's $18. So What do you think about
it's super interesting. I mean, the running back position today is, to your point, there's just a ton of sort of mid-range value. I think you could throw in that camp. You had Mostert 6,600. I mean, he's been playing great. You know, I don't know. You know, Denver's rush defense is not what they're known for. So he could have another, you know, and you've got potentially Jalen Waddle out, which means, you know, maybe the ball's in Mostert's hand a little bit more. So I think that's a real solid play. You know, I also think in that same price range, you've got Miles Sanders, who has not played great so far. But, you know, you had Andy Dalton under center, and I'm just wondering if they're just going to give the ball to Sanders like 18 times. Hasn't really sniffed the end zone this year. That's kept his, you know, projections kind of low. But I just think he's due for a big game. And against Seattle, Seattle's got one of the worst defenses out there. So, so I think he's a real solid play. And then you got to, I mean, another guy who maybe hasn't been playing that well, but you know, Alexander Madison. You know, they let Cook go. They thought Madison was the guy. He hasn't done it yet, but he's 6,300 on DraftKings, and what's he on FanDuel? He's similar, right? On FanDuel. Yeah. So, I mean, he's, you know, I think just another really good value. Again, this is going to be a high scoring game. So can he get the end zone, you know, a couple of times? Yeah. So I think he's an interesting play at 6,300. And then the one other guy who's kind of the value guy for me, I've got two value guys. One is more of like I'd call it a, you know, a cash game value, and that's Gus Edwards. Again, going back to the Baltimore game, going to be raining. He is the only running back. So, you know, Hill's been taking some of his end zone touches, you know, the past game or two. Not going to happen today because Hill's out. So he's another sneaky guy who's going to be low owned, I think. Interesting. And then if you really want to take a flyer, you've got Montgomery out in the Detroit game. And, you know, I think they like Gibbs, but he's still a rookie. They're moving him up slowly. So does that mean that Craig Reynolds gets to see, you know, a decent? Yeah, I mean, very sort of sneaky, you know, under the radar. Nobody's gonna, you know, be thinking about him. But he might, you know, just, you know, pull one off in the end zone.
Yeah, and Atlanta's numbers are kind of deceptive, I think, against the run because they face Carolina, which, you know, they have Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard or whatever, but, you know, they face the Packers without Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon hasn't been playing very well. Right now, Atlanta's ranked 4th against running backs, but I do think that they could definitely give up some yards to some running backs to Detroit. So, yeah, I think Craig Reynolds, you know, even if he gets you like a touchdown in the goal line situation or something like that, could be a really nice GPP play. So I like it. One play I don't like, and I know we're not really doing fades, but I don't like Jerome Ford at all this week. I know he's probably the number one ad in you know, season-long fantasy, but it's a very tough matchup against the Titans, and then they added Kareem Hunt on top of that. So I just think that's a really tough play this week.
I'm with you. I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of focus on him because he played so well. And he's cheap, right?
Right.
What is he on? Let's see. Yeah,
it's like 5,600 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's down there with like a, you know, Devin Singletary and, you know, Sam Dupree. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty cheap, but I agree. He's definitely a fade for me.
I'm with you 100%. And then you mentioned Madison. I think Cam Akers could get some ownership. Well, he's not going to play.
I think he's not playing this week.
Okay, I just remembered that. Yeah.
So Madison's got one more week to show it.
Yeah, that really puts the onus on Madison to perform this week for sure. So the only other play I like, which I don't know how much I like him this week, but Rashawn Johnson is going to be somebody to watch. They're already talking about how he's going to get more carries. They said that, you know, they wouldn't even be surprised if he's the lead back soon. So Watch for him. He's only 4,700 on DraftKings and Fanduel and $12 on Yahoo. It is a tough matchup against the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to be running that much. They got to play catch up. So I like them to throw more, but Rashawn Johnson is somebody you could throw in tournaments. And I think going forward, he's definitely somebody to watch in season long too. So
makes sense. I like that call for long term. Yeah.
So then we'll go to wide receiver. I'm sure Justin Jefferson's probably at the top of your list. He's at the top of my list. Probably going to be at the top of just about everybody's list. Going up against the Chargers, they've allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. So it's really just going to be whether or not you can afford him. But I also like Keenan Allen on the opposite side of this matchup. He got 19 targets through the first 2 games. Should be a heavy pass attack again, obviously without Eckler. And Keenan Allen should be a really nice play, and he's quite a bit cheaper than Jefferson.
Yeah, that's a big difference maker for me. I mean, on FanDuel, he's like $900 less. On DraftKings, the difference is
1,700.
Yeah, 1,700. So right. I mean, no doubt Jefferson. He's going to have a big game, no doubt. The question is going to be, does he get into the end zone? Because that's, that's been the difference so far this year is he has not, he hasn't had a touchdown yet.
I know.
Whereas Keenan Allen's had several. So, this is going to be an offensive game for sure. So it's really going to come down to, can, Jefferson's going to have his game, but can you afford to play him? I'm playing Pollard in all my games, and you can go so deep on wide receiver that I'm just choosing to sort of get more of that value mid-tier position on most of the wide receivers. Sure. I'll go as high as Allen, but for the most part, I'm going to stay away from Justin Jefferson. Actually, I like Addison. I think Addison's really good, and maybe the focus is on Jefferson, and Addison gets a little bit of a little bit extra there. So that's the only thing. But no doubt you can't go wrong by eating the Jefferson chalk.
Right. And then you mentioned it, Addison. I mean, he's in a really good spot. You also mentioned my other play, which was Nico Collins. He's been playing very well. He's been targeted 20 times in these first 2 games. Last week, he had 7 catches on 9 targets for 146 yards and a touchdown for 30.6 DraftKings points. And he's really cheap on all 3 sites. I mean, he's $5,300 on DraftKings, $6,900 on FanDuel, and $18 on Yahoo. So he's the obvious kind of, wide receiver 1 for Houston. So I think that, he's going to be somebody I'm going to be targeting at his price for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that call a lot. The other call I kind of like is Pittman. Now, again, the rain, does that make a difference? But he's been targeted like 11 and 12 times in the first 2 games. Hit a touchdown the first game, not in the second game. But, I like, Minshew is kind of, he's a decent quarterback, right? And
a little sneaky, yeah.
Yeah. I think they'll be passing the ball a little bit more and, have a balanced approach, but he's definitely the number 1 wide receiver there. So I think he's really solid and a good price. The guy that I absolutely love from a value standpoint, and I think he's going to be totally under the radar, and that is Cooper, Amari Cooper.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's playing great. And that team, losing Chubb, they can go to Ford, but I just think they're going to have to pass the ball a little bit more. And, Deshaun Watson is a passing quarterback. So I just think Cooper always seems to go unnoticed. They're playing against Tennessee, which Tennessee's got a great run defense, not a great passing defense. So I think they're going to go to the air more this week. And, I expect Amari Cooper to get, 7 to 8 receptions. And if he can get a touchdown, that's an amazing value play because he is like under $6K.
For sure. So one of the questions in the chat was if we like any of the Miami value. I think it's a tough week for Miami. I mean, Denver's one of the best secondaries in the league. They are one of the few teams that can guard Tyreek Hill one-on-one. They can put Surtain on him, and he's done really well in the past against Hill. So I think it's going to be tough. If you had to choose, I mean, you got Braxton Berrios and River Craycraft, so it's not jumping off the page by any means. But if you had to choose, which of those would you take, or would you just not play either one?
Yeah, I'm putting a little bit on Craycraft. I think I've seen Berrios play more over the years. I think Craycraft, he did have a nice connection in week 1 with Tua, couple of big receptions. So I think he's going to be able to get open a little bit. I like Craycraft and I like Smythe. I think that's the other guy they're going to go to as their tight end. So I'd prefer Craycraft and Smythe over Berrios. I'm probably going to play Hill and I have him in one lineup right now just because he sort of fit in that flex position. I had enough money left. But to your point, given Surtain and going one-on-one, I mean, it's not quite my favorite play. It's another game where it's going to be raining. Yeah. So I think that's got to impact. I mean, you look to Hill for speed, and I think that's got to impact him a little bit.
Slow him down a little bit. If you can slow him down, that's
exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. I mean, I was looking at the last 2 games he had against Denver. He had 1 catch for 2 yards and 2 catches for 22 yards. Those were his last 2 games against Denver.
All right, so Crash is calling it right here. Pick the under on Hill.
I mean, that's where it would lean, but those kind of obvious plays, they never seem to pan out. So I'm a little leery of that. But
I'm not sure that's such an obvious one, though. You got to kind of dig for that a little bit.
Yeah,
I like it.
Let me see what Tyreek Hill's at right now, because now I'm curious. 90.5. Yeah, I would take the under on that.
Wow. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that leads us to tight end. Obvious pay up tight end. He's the most expensive tight end. Travis Kelce at home against the Bears. I think he could probably have a 2 or 3 touchdown game, honestly. I mean, there's just not really a whole lot for Mahomes to throw to right now. So I do like Kelce as the pay up tight end. Not sure how much of him I'm going to have. And then for value, I think John Bates, he's only 2,800 on DraftKings, filling in for Logan Thomas, who's going to be out. He should be the top tight end for Washington. He got 5 targets last week with a career high 46 yards receiving, which isn't a lot, but if he gets 3 or 4 catches for 40 yards at his price, and especially if he gets in the end zone, you're sitting really pretty at tight end. So
yeah, that's a good sneaky call. I hadn't thought about him.
Yeah, I try to find those little punt plays at tight end because
exactly.
You can make your roster a lot better if you don't pay up at tight end. Yeah.
The value guy for me, I mentioned Smythe. I've got a few value guys, so I'm either I'm not going to go for Kelce. I'm just not. I actually got burned with him last week, and I mean he'll be there, but I just the expectations are so huge, so I'm going to kind of stay away. But I like Ingram a lot. You got Zay Jones out, so they'll be going to Ingram a little bit more. And again, sort of a high scoring game there. Hawkinson, I mean, is, going to be a favorite. He's been playing really well in Minnesota. But I like a couple of the value guys there. So similar to you, somewhat punting. I mentioned Smythe. I also mentioned Schultz, who I'm going to pair up in my Stroud lineups. But I also like Ferguson. I think Ferguson's going to have a great game at some point. And I mean, Dallas has really been pumping him up. And against Arizona, this could be the week where he finds the end zone. So I like Ferguson a lot, who's really cheap.
Yeah, I like that call. I do. All right. So last we have defense. Cowboys defense, I'd imagine that everybody's going to play them pretty much. I mean, they just have an obvious matchup. I like the Chiefs as well against the Bears. And then a GPP on DraftKings, the Jets are only 2,800. It's supposed to be rainy. They're playing the Patriots. And the Patriots really, they've been more of a passing offense this year than running. So I think that kind of plays into the hands of the Jets defense. So I kind of like the Jets defense as my GPP play.
Yeah, I love that call. I was the same way. They were my GPP call. The other teams I like, and I always find, I always do defense last. And, it's like, all right, how much money do I have left? And who can I, tolerate? There's always a few at the bottom where you're like, no way.
Right. But, you're not going to play the Chargers at the Vikings,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But I kind of like the Bills, particularly on DraftKings where they're 2,900. And I really like Cleveland. I think Cleveland's got a great defense. They are playing against Tennessee, not the best offensive team.
Sure.
So I think they're 3,300 on DraftKings, and on Fanduel they are, where are they at? 4,300. But I think they're going to have they've been hitting good numbers the last both the first 2 weeks. So I think they have another good week defensively.
Nice. All right, so let's take a look. Any more questions? Anybody in the chat? And then while they're doing that, let's go ahead and do our news segment, and that's going to be our lock of the week and our upset of the week. So who do you take for your lock of the week? And that can be either straight up or against the spread.
Yeah. I'm going to go. Let me actually go to my what I've picked for my I really like, in terms of a lock of the week, I'm going with, I don't know. It's different for me, straight up versus the spread. So, so straight up, I got to go. Straight up, I got to go Dallas, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that one's a little too obvious, but that would be my lock straight up. My spread game is Atlanta. I like Atlanta with the 3.5, with Detroit having 3.5. So that would be my spread lock.
Okay. Mine's pretty similar. I have Kansas City for my lock, and then I'll take Atlanta for my upset, and I'll take them straight up. I really like the way Atlanta's been playing. Obviously, they came back against the Packers, even though we were winning by 12. It was a frustrating game, but I think their defense has improved a lot. And Bijan Robinson is just an absolute monster. I mean, he is going to be unbelievable. So
he is really good.
He's already like a top 5 back in the league, in my opinion. So I just can't imagine how good he's going to be a few years down the road if he can stay healthy. I mean, that's always the thing with running backs, is their longevity. But man, 100%. I've really been impressed with Bijan Robinson. So
Nice.
All right. So then, did you have a chance to look at any of the props?
I did not.
Okay.
But I like the hill. I like the hill under 90.
Yeah, I do too. The other plays I'm looking at are Jordan Addison, more than 50.5 receiving yards. He had 72 and 61 in the first 2 games.
Oh, wow.
Travis Kelce, more than 0.5 touchdowns. And then Justin Fields, more than 27.5 passing attempts. I think that he's going to have to throw the ball a lot just to stay in that game with Kansas City. So I like him at more than 27.5. He's gone over that number in both games so far. And if he had to throw 30, I think it was like 36 times or something against the Bucks, I can imagine what he'll have to throw against the Chiefs. So,
wow.
Yeah. And so that is going to do it. Do we have any questions in the chat? Yeah, if they could get Pitts going, that would really help Atlanta a lot too. I don't know why they can't. I mean, he's so talented.
He hasn't done it at all. They need to trade him. He needs some fresh. He needs a new locale.
Yeah. We'll take him in Green Bay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
No, I liked your guy.
Yeah, I do like Musgrave. I do like
Musgrave.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see him.
But if we had Pitts and Musgrave, that would be even better. So
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that is going to do it. We will have, I think, 12:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Does that work for you as far as doing the lineups? Can you do that?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
I'm counting on you because you've been putting out better lineups than I have. So
all right, we're gonna put some good ones out this week.
Yeah, I really like this week. I didn't like last week that much. I think this is a really good week. So
it's a good week.
I'm confident we're going to bounce back in a big way. So let's make some good money. Once again, join us on DFS Coach Talk on Twitter. Send us a DM. You can join us with our kickoff special for just $45. Get the rest of the NFL season, Major League Baseball playoffs, NBA, all the way up until February 12th. And thank you, Deb, for filling in today. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be you or Steve next week, but no matter what, we're going to absolutely crush it. So hope everybody joins us again next week as we look to crush it in NFL, DFS, and Prize Picks. Thank you.